now.
All right, and welcome to Mythical Monster Investigation episode. I don't even remember 25, 26. Like, do you even remember what we're on?
Um, no, ask about. Um,
It's
I
we.
it will be fixed in the title when I upload it to Spotify and YouTube.
There you go. Okay, we'll go with that. Yeah, we've been a bit busy. Things been going on. Movies to see.
Corruption of video files.
Corruption of video files, which we are glad is not happening at this one because that would really piss us off. Um. Okay, so anyway, episode whatever, where we're continuing our look at angels, their mythology, history, and reality. And I'm, of course, Archimage, along with my co-hosts.
Shout out, Fox.
And said,
And we are going to continue that dive. And all right, we have got a heavy episode today. And I'm going to be honest, I was not going to give this subject this much coverage. And I certainly was not going to devote an entire episode to it. But in order to keep everything fairly coherent, it's going to have to be done. Now, we are actually going to start off on a lighter note, and I'm going to hand this over to Zed for Who's That Monster Pokemon Cherubim Edition. Zed, take it away.
ironically, I managed to find a Pokemon that at least has some mention of cherubs with it. You'll also notice there's Digimon on the screen because they are far more vast, apparently. But there is actually a Pokemon named Cherubi and its evolution Cherrim, which, yes, the names are kind of on the nose. Not sure how cherries work, but they might have just been going for wordplay, in all honesty.
Makes sense.
Although, I guess there is something horrifying to say about a sentient cherry.
I mean, the last one you can
Those ice cream sundae would be safe.
you can kind of see with the final.
Ironically,
evolution.
there is an ice cream Pokemon, so that would work.
Oh, come on!
With the final evolution of with
The
Cherrim.
Cherrim's sunny form, yeah.
You can see its petals as wings, and that can.
You could.
I've heard worse reasons.
Yeah. But the main focus in the center is the Digimon known as Cherubimon, which I'm going to assume, based off of the name, is supposed to be based off of a cherub.
It is just going off of what I remember of it from the Digimon movies. It was supposed to be It was supposed to be another angelic Pokemon. With Patmon, if I remember correctly, Patmon evolving into Angelmon. This one was supposed to evolve into Cherubimon, with another. I can't remember its pre-evolution. It's been way too long since
I don't know. I've played the game where I can make this, and I have forgotten completely.
And yes, it does look like a giant floppy jester rabbit, and that's it. Yeah. It moves just how you think it does, by floating around and hopping around, in its dog form. I remember that from the movies.
Was there an explanation to the evil form? Because I don't remember that movie at all. Okay.
So, basically what happened was it got corrupted by some type of, I think, digital virus. And it became it fell to the virus and became Dark Cherubimon. And they did manage to save it, and you got to see the good Cherubimon in the end, but they ultimately saved it and killed it at the same time, type deal. So you saw the good version of it briefly before it died. Oh, I guess became a digital egg. Well, no, it was a virus, so I think it died. Spoilers.
I vaguely remember seeing bits of that movie.
Yeah, it's an old movie.
Yeah, I don't. Why was I watching it? I wasn't really. I tried to get into Digimon. I quit halfway through the season and then just never picked it back up. And then I saw bits and pieces of it because I was taking my brother to something, and that was on early in the morning before we had to go.
Yeah, and you probably would have saw the movie because the movie remember Digimon signed kind of like a deal with Fox, so it was like during that whole Power Block episode.
Yeah, that's probably why.
And I know the movie, I believe, was I think it was released around the same time. It was released in Japan. It was released like the movie was made globally released. So I think that's probably why it was fairly a big deal. It coming out in the Pokemon movie was kind of big deals back in the day.
Sounds right. All right.
But in terms of angels, other than it being slightly angelic in its nature and its name, you didn't see anything in the movies. I mean, I guess you could argue the fall to corruption could be mirrored with the devil type stuff, but
Gotcha. All right. Well, anything else you guys want to add for that, or?
I don't know anything about Cherub the Flower. I think that's just a
Yeah, that's
a
just
play on
there. They
word.
might have been going for wordplay. Why they were going
Gotcha.
for wordplay with cherubs, I don't know. But
Gotcha. Okay. Well, oddly enough, this may actually mirror our archaeological evidence that we saw in the last episode a bit on the cherub, because you saw them going from like these four-headed nightmare fuels to those sweet innocent babies, as details for them seem to be lost instead of added on, which is a direct contrast with most of the creatures we've covered who typically have elements added on instead of, redacted, which highlights a point I've made before in this series, that if something is strange enough, like something's bizarre enough or fantastic enough, a story like that, you really don't need to embellish the story that much. It can kind of stand on its own, which, in my opinion, adds to its credibility. I mean, what do you guys? That's always been my opinion. Like, what do you guys think about that? Still, like going off on this, like, is something so strange add to its credibility, or do you think it's just like people have wild imaginations?
I think it depends on how far it goes. Because people's imaginations, I tend to think when they're trying to embellish something, they still try to stay fairly realistic. But it's when you say something that there is no way in hell that you're like, okay, how did they even come?
Yeah, and that's also been kind of my instinct was is like whenever I hear something just completely outlandish or weird, is yes, some people can just have a very vivid and very imaginative imagination, but I often find that most people, even the most imaginative thing nowadays, they base it in something else. They use something as a reference point, some
There's
truth.
usually some truth in the lie,
Yes, and that's why whenever I heard the very strange thing for the biblically accurate angels about having what was it, head of a I don't know if we did this already. Was it head of a lion, head
yeah,
of a
that's the
human?
cherub.
Okay, an eagle head, six wings, crown upon his head. Was it crown? I believe.
Okay, so for the cherub specifically, it's four faces: ox, man, eagle, lion, four wings, possibly four arms, ox legs with bronze. I'm sorry, straight legs with the feet of an ox of bronze, composed of fire, with four wings.
Yeah, that's
Yeah, that's kind of out there. I'm
like
not gonna
that's even
lie.
more. And taking you gotta also take in consideration this is from the Bible, which came in my opinion that probably would came before the Greek chimera.
Yes, 100%.
So the Greek chimera, it wasn't that. It's not that big of a stretch in terms of imagination. It's like a lion, a snake, a goat head, and I think eagle wings. That's not too
It
crazy.
was just the lion, the goat head, and the snake. The eagle wings were added in later.
Okay.
Griffin.
Okay. Well, that's not that strange of a
No,
mashup
it really isn't.
of three animals. But this is a very strange and also out there description of something. So it's like, yeah, it could be imaginative, but how often do we see a caveman drawing of something like this?
Right? And let's face it, we haven't even gotten to the stranger parts yet.
So it's like, and I know, I don't know what part of the Bible this was described in. Was this described during the whole Revelation thing, or was this described by a prophet or someone?
What are we
The
talking about? The
cherub.
cherub?
The cherub,
Oh,
yeah.
okay. So the cherub is described by the prophet Ezekiel, I think, and it's also going to be described in Revelation. But there's actually a little bit of discrepancy with Revelation and Ezekiel, which I will probably cover in a later episode.
Okay.
But this specifically that we're looking at is covered by Ezekiel.
Was this when Ezekiel was having vision of I believe didn't he have visions of heaven? Oh,
Yes.
okay. I'm trying to remember my Bible.
Yeah, no, we're gonna get it. That's actually why we're doing this episode because that episode's gonna lead us more coherently, and it's gonna flow better to the rest of, especially the angel hierarchy, and that'll explain why. Which is why we're taking a step to do this particular episode that I don't want to focus on too much. But again, there's a few points here that I think should be addressed. But yeah, so it'll make more sense once we get into that. And also, on a fun note, we'll get to make fun of the ancient alien people next time.
Nah, there we go.
Yeah, I know you both will enjoy that. Actually, you're going to really enjoy it when I show you some of their conclusions by it. But anyway, um, but yeah, that's about anything else. So yeah, that's my thing is that the more bizarre a story, I think there's a bigger tendency that you should kind of say, okay, you should maybe not immediately believe it, but at least give it some thought. Because again, like at some point you got to think about why would they expect anyone to believe this? Just saying. But anyway, that's just my note. So, okay. So, again, like I was saying, to move along, for the sake of a coherent discussion and to kind of help this series flow better, and especially in terms of information, Zed is actually going to take over again, this time discussing media representations of the devil. Now, the reason for this will make sense by the end of this episode. But with that being said, Zed, take it away.
The devil is obviously much more well represented in media, being probably more famous than a cherub.
Right.
I should put Devilmon in there. I mean Devilmane in there.
Oh, Devimon, yeah.
Oh,
No,
by the way, Zed, I do want you to remember you said that.
What?
That the devil is more represented than the cherub. Please remember you said that.
Okay.
I say I should put Devilmane in there from the anime.
We should have also put Devilman in there from that, yes. And obviously one of the probably more prominent ones is the actual recent show Lucifer.
Right.
But in terms of keeping with the themes we've been going off of, there is obviously a Lucimon, which is the three large pictures you can see there.
Which is funny because that's separate from Devimon, which is an actual...
It is completely separate from Devimon. Devimon just looks like what you would stereotypically draw as a devil.
Which can be a little bit ironic because if I recall correctly, because of some other books of the Bible, argument you can tell me if I'm wrong or not, my understanding is there is a discrepancy between Lucifer and Satan. Like in
We're actually going to talk about that later.
Because I know in some...
Ironic that you bring that up because that is also part of the pictures over on the right. Those are from the Shin Megami Tensei / Persona series. The bottom one being Lucifer and the top one being Satan.
Yeah.
Wait,
which are two different personas.
The cute kid is Satan, and the badass half demon one is Lucifer?
No, on the right side.
On the other side of the dragon.
Oh, okay.
On the right side of the screen.
So the bottom
one
with the devil horn is Lucifer, and the top one that looked like a monstrosity is Satan.
Is Satan.
Oh. Okay.
Yeah, all the other three pictures are the forms of Lucimon.
Gotcha. Okay. That works out. And yeah, you can see how the devil's represented. Although
Yes.
I'm surprised the classic cartoony version with the red horns didn't make an appearance.
So that was Devimon was not red, but he was black with the iconic horns.
With the iconic horns, yeah.
And now one of them has a pitchfork.
I think Devimon actually had pitchforks at one time.
Now I have to look. Hang on.
Did he have a pitchfork?
I will find out.
If not, his claws was like a pitchforks.
Well, I guess it didn't really matter because
he just has really large claws. It looks like, but it doesn't look like he has a standard pitchfork.
And to be fair, it really doesn't matter that much because
I always thought that was Hollywood.
actually no, the pitchfork actually comes from Hades'
Okay,
representation.
Greek.
Hades, of course, had
Uh,
a
a
bident, not
bifolk.
a
Yeah.
trident. But there was also a discrepancy where Hades and Poseidon, they believed, came from the same god and might have come from the same god, eventually split. It's a whole thing, but no, that's actually a representation from the Greeks.
Yes.
And apparently, more people knew what a trident was than a bident. So,
Well, most people don't realize that Hades had a bident, not a trident, and it was Poseidon who was given the trident, Hades who was given a bident, and
yeah.
Zeus was given the lightning bolt. Well, technically Hades was given the helm, and I think the bident came later on in other sources, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, that also comes from the separation of Hades and Poseidon, because
Mm.
originally they say going back far enough, they might have actually been the same god. Now, to be fair, that's not confirmed. That is a theory, so
Let
I'm
me
not going to say
guess.
it is
That
absolute.
comes from the concept that Hades is the god of the underworld, and Poseidon technically is the god of earthquakes.
Yeah.
Okay, that's
So
what I thought.
that's a theory. That's not absolute. So I'm not going to say that's it because I haven't looked that up to say either way. Because that sounds like a lot of research and a lot of reading Greek, and I don't plan on
It
learning Greek to figure it
is.
out.
I have a feeling that it's probably just the whole concept. Yeah, I'm not gonna put that. I always thought it was strange that Poseidon was made the god of both the sea and earthquakes, but when I think about it, I'm like, if you have an earthquake under the sea, it's gonna cause the biggest of waves.
Yeah, it really does. To be fair, tidal waves and earthquakes are often accompanied by one
One
another.
synonymous. So I
So
always
it does
figured
make
that was
sense
the
in a
Greek
way.
rationalizing earthquakes and the tsunamis and waves that come afterward.
Yeah, so in a way it makes sense that they'd be linked with one god and it would be the god of the sea.
Yeah.
So, eh. Sorry, Zed, were you looking for something to add or?
No, I was looking up the pictures to see if Devimon had a pitchfork.
Okay, but yeah, so that's
Just a very large.
just okay. So yeah, I just wanted to take a look at that, and with that representation of the devil, I think. Well, I don't know. Is there anything else you guys wanted to add to it before we move on, or?
Um, I guess mostly seen it from animes and media, other media. Um, usually make him evil. I guess supernatural made him kind of evil, kind of more
Actually, I think Supernatural did a really great job representing the devil.
more bitter, if I'm understanding it correctly. I didn't get to that part of the supernatural with the
Oh, you haven't seen season 5?
no, I
Oh, I'd watch season 5. Season 5 is great.
I can't
Like
remember
if
where I
season
stopped.
if Supernatural had ended on season 5, I would have been happy.
I just can't remember where I stopped with it. That's the problem.
Ah, gotcha.
So I'm kind of lost where they stopped.
Ah,
um, but most thing that I know usually make the devil the villain. Something make the devil a tragic fallen character.
yeah,
Which I think is how
sympathy for the
Supernatural
devil.
did
That's
it for him.
no, that was more Lucifer. The devil is the tragic character. So I'm not gonna lie. That's why I said the devil in Lucifer was really good because you understood like how people would go for him, but he was still 100% evil. Like you understood him, but yeah, you understood he was not good. Yet he
Oh, I
could
meant
still
the
make
devil
you
from
feel.
the Lucifer from
Oh,
Supernatural as
yeah.
a tragic fallen.
Oh, from you mean from the Lucifer TV show, not from not from Supernatural the TV show.
Oh no, I thought I was referring to Supernatural because I seen the one from TV show a little bit.
Yeah, no, he's definitely
Okay,
evil. Like
okay, they're all
they
evil.
do a little bit of sympathy later seasons, but in season 5, no, he's just evil. And they give you reasons why, and it is both humorous and horrifying at the same time. But I'm not going to spoil it for anyone who might want to watch Supernatural because I think again they really represent Satan really well in Supernatural. I thought
I would say the Lucifer from Devilman, the manga anime. Interesting interpretation of it
very
and
much
of
so.
demons
Yeah, and angels to be
and
honest.
very freaking bloody.
So bloody. So much blood.
Strange interpretation. Yeah, it was a strange interpretation of angels, technically. Well, you only saw, like, Lucifer. He was the
And a
only
couple of
angel.
the others, but like
Well,
they
they
were kind
showed
of in the
5
background, but they're
seconds
strong.
at the ending,
Yeah,
yes.
but and
And
damn,
5 seconds at the beginning, too.
right? Like story was kind of like damn. Still. Um, anything else, or ready to move on?
Yeah, I think that's the only one I can think of.
Okay, so all right. Now, as I said, I really did not want to devote an entire episode to this subject, and honestly, I thought of just like omitting it altogether, but there is a couple of specific facts that the Bible mentions which I did not I did not know, and as I discovered, many people did not know, and that is that according to biblical canon, the devil, Satan, is in fact a cherub.
I
And
didn't know the
just on
Bible
side,
mentioned that directly.
yes, no, and just to say, cherub is I found out later because I asked the question about cherub and cherubim. Cherub is actually singular, as in one cherub. Cherubim is plural, as in more than one. So that explains a lot, and I really should have figured that out. Anyway, this is actually specifically detailed in Ezekiel 28:12 through 19, which I'm actually going to read, and you guys are going to have to forgive me a bit, but it is best to like actually kind of hear out these verses. And the reason why I'm going to tell a bit later, but sorry, second.
Um,
So
got
in
my
this,
problem.
you were the seal of perfection, full of wisdom and perfect in beauty. You were in Eden, the garden of God. Every precious stone adorned to you. Carnelian, crystal, and emerald, topaz, onyx, and jasper, lapis lazuli, turquoise, and beryl. They really had to name bloody stones. Your setting and mountings were made of gold. On the day you were created, they were prepared. You were anointed as a guardian cherub, for so I ordained you. You were on the holy mount of God. You walked among the fiery stones. You were blameless in your ways. From the days you were created till wickedness was found in you. Through your widespread trade, you were filled with violence, and you sinned. So I drove you in disgrace from the mount of God and expelled you, guardian cherub, from among the fiery stones. Now, this verse, of course, actually begins with the prophet speaking about the king of Tyre before going off into this lesson, which highlights how pride can bring down even the most pure of beings. Now, while this verse does not specifically state that this cherub is Satan, there are certain contextual clues that make it a very probable assumption. So, again, in reality, and sorry, I lost my train of thought. But yeah, there's a lot of context clues throughout the Bible that makes it clear that this is probably describing Satan because this is done more than once. Talking about a fall, talking about pride, how he was anointed, how he wanted to be like God, and various other things. So it's very probable that this is, in fact, referring to Satan as this so called guardian cherub. So which I find very interesting, which means when you really think about it, which I had to think about it, is and sorry, I lost my place. So in reality, Satan is not red and horned with a pitchfork wielding monster often depicted in our childhood cartoons and in various other representations, which showcased earlier. But instead, the devil looks like a bright and shining cherub, which you can go ahead and change slides. He looks probably like that. Multi-headed, multi-winged, and burning bright. But to be fair to our childhood, since one of the faces of the cherub is an ox, it means technically Satan does have horns. So, Zed, now you understand why I wanted you to keep the thought about more representations of the devil than cherub. Because the joke is probably, according to biblical canon, Satan is a cherub, and for those of us watching on YouTube, he probably looks closer to this, which I don't know. Is that any better?
Hard to see all of his heads.
Yeah, but you can see the horns.
Yes.
But like, is that actually better? I don't know. Well, anyway. The more traditional devil image comes from another source, which we're not going to cover as it has already been covered in various other lectures. However, there are certain points that I do want to address. First, starting with a common misconception. First of all, the serpent in Genesis is associated with Satan. However, Genesis never directly makes this claim. And I think you can switch slides now.
Okay.
Yeah. Instead, the Bible offers subtle hints towards their relation. One of the biggest coming from Revelation 12:9, where Satan is called the serpent of old. So I would say it's probably a fair assumption. I mean, don't you guys think so? I mean, literally being called the serpent of old, the great dragon, like that seems kind of on the nose, right? Uh, huh?
No, now I'm kind of wondering a lot of stuff just because thinking. You gotta remember the snake quote technically had legs
Yeah,
when it first encountered them, so I don't know if you can call it a serpent.
fair enough. But that's
Serpentine,
what
but
Revelation's calling him the serpent of old. And to be fair, he was referred to as serpent. The snake did later become referred to as a serpent.
yeah, that's always had me was I remember reading that the Genesis as a kid and thinking, wait, why if it get if it loses legs because of this, why was they calling it a serpent? It would have just been a very long lizard. Am I wrong?
No, I'm not saying you're wrong.
That's what always confused me as a kid reading that. I'm like, yeah, and they called it a serpent back then as well. They called it a serpent.
Yeah, no, I find it strange. But so, yeah, this is one of the context clues that the serpent is probably Satan. But to be fair, Genesis itself never actually states, yeah, this is definitely Satan. In fact, funny enough, the word Satan, which literally translates to adversary or opponent, does not directly denote the adversary of God until Zechariah 3:1-2, where Satan stands up to accuse Joshua. Furthermore, Satan as a direct notation doesn't get. I'm sorry, let me try that again. Furthermore, Satan is not directly denoted as an enemy or adversary until Job 1:6. And finally, the term devil is actually originating in Greek translations as diablos, meaning slanderer or accuser. And this is his main denotion as the enemy of God. Now, this actually brings up a question of angels being named in the Bible, as it is believed, according to biblical canon, that Satan's real name is Lucifer Morningstar, which actually I think, as Zed mentioned, a popular show, Lucifer has been based around it. Which I'm not gonna lie, I do like the show Lucifer, though I think the first 3 seasons were the best, and that 4 and 5 got off track. I think that's fair. Now, while this name is in the Bible, I challenge that it states Lucifer Morningstar as Satan. Now, the passage in question is Isaiah 14, which describes a prophecy about the fall of the Babylonian king and the restoration of the people of Israel. This prophecy, many claim, compares the Babylonian king's fall to the fall of Satan. However, I have 2 issues with this claim. The first being the word Lucifer, which is in fact from a Latin translation of the verse meaning light bringer or morning star, which means Lucifer morning star is literally saying morning star in two different languages. Not to mention
so it's like Mario's last name.
pretty much, yeah.
Not Mario. He's Luigi
Yeah.
Mario.
Yeah, pretty much. Not to mention that the only other two angels mentioned in the Bible, that being Michael and Gabriel, both have names that are glorifying God, where Lucifer does not. A fact which some writers, such as those of the said show Lucifer, have noticed this and claimed Lucifer's original name is Samael and was changed to Lucifer when he fell. Unsurprisingly, Samael is not part of biblical canon. However, Samael, which means poison or vengeance of God, is often associated with Satan, as this angel has been associated with death and carrying out punishments. Now, association or not, Lucifer Morningstar is mentioned in the Bible, and I'm actually going to read this passage first, and then I'm going to share my other issue with this being the name of Satan, and you can tell me what you think. And I'm sorry this is going to take a minute, but please bear with me. Huh?
Next slide.
No, this is just going to. I'm going to read this out. This is going to. No, I'm sorry. Next slide. You're right.
Okay.
I apologize. Yeah, so this is going to take a minute, but bear with me. Okay, so this comes from Isaiah 14. For the Lord will have mercy on Jacob and will still choose Israel and settle them in their own land. The strangers will be joined with them, and they will cling to the house of Jacob. Then people will take them and bring them to their place, and the house of Israel will possess them for servants and maids in the land of the Lord. They will make them captive whose captives they were, and rule over their oppressors. Fall of the king of Babylon. It shall come to pass in the day the Lord gives you rest from your sorrow and from your fear and the hard bondage in which you were made to serve, that you will take up this proverb against the king of Babylon and say, how the oppressor has ceased, the golden city ceased. The Lord has broken the staff of the wicked, the scepter of the rulers, he who struck the people in wrath with a continual stroke. He who ruled the nations in anger is persecuted, and no one hinders. The whole earth is at rest and quiet. They break forth into singing. Indeed, the cypress trees rejoice over you, and the cedars of Lebanon, saying, since you were cut down, no woodsman has come up against us. Hell from beneath is excited about you, to meet you at your coming. It stirs up the dead for you. All the chief ones of the earth it has raised up from their thrones. All the kings of the nations, they shall speak and say to you, have you also become as weak as we? Have you become like us? Your pomp is brought down to Shiloh, and the sound of your stringed instruments, the maggot is spread under you, and the worms cover you. How you are fallen from heaven, O Lucifer, son of the morning! How you are cut down to the ground! You who weakened the nations, for you have said in your heart, I will ascend into heaven, and I will exalt my throne above the stars of God. I will also sit on the mount of congregation. On the farthest sides of the north, I will ascend above the heights of the clouds. I will be like the Most High. Yet you shall be brought down to Shiloh and to the lowest depths of the pit. Those who see you will gaze at you and consider you, saying, is this the man who made the earth tremble, who shook kingdoms, who made the world as a wilderness and destroyed its cities, who did not open the house of his prisoners? And the kings of the nations of all of them sleep in glory, everyone in his own house. But you are cast out of your grave like an abominable branch, like the garment of those who are slain, thrust through with a sword, who go down to the stones of the pit like a corpse trodden underfoot. Okay, so yeah, that took a while, and I apologize. But as you can see, the name Lucifer comes from verse 12 of that, how you are fallen from heaven, O Lucifer, son of the morning. Now, here's my question. So, according to this, what this is doing is he's addressing the king of Babylon and then referring it back, his fall, to the fall of the angel who stood against God, because he starts talking about here bits of things ascending to heaven, stars of God, and everything else that are above the king. Now, here's the question. When he says, O Lucifer, son of the morning, is he referring to the angel or is he referring to the king? This is not an answer I know. I'm asking. What do you think? Because I'm gonna tell you I don't know.
Well, so strangely enough, for that translation, was that King James or was that New
Yes, this
International?
is this is the King James version, and the New
It
International.
doesn't have
It
Lucifer.
doesn't say no. Like I
Yes,
said, Lucifer is the Latin interpretation of bringer of light or morning star.
because for mine, which is New International, it just say, "Oh, you have fallen from heaven, O morning star, son of the dawn."
Yes, which again means that the name they're saying is either morning star or light bringer. It's not. It's not Lucifer. Lucifer's a Latin translation of morning star, so it shouldn't be Lucifer morning star because that's just saying morning star twice. So, but the question is the name Morningstar, Lucifer, or whatever else, is he talking about the king or is he talking about the angel?
Sound like the angel, because the
Does it
previous,
because,
well,
like, the next few lines, he's definitely talking about an angel, but is he saying, oh, mighty king, this is what you're like, or is he saying, you are like this angel, and then goes down?
it's. Let me see.
Zed, what do you think? You had to listen to me talk as well.
I, being honest, I have no idea. I'm one of those people that sucked at English, so seeing that phrasing, unless you put the name or I have the very clear, um, I'm forgetting words. Unless it's much clearer, and I agree with you. It seems to be either or, almost.
Right?
It,
Like,
who is talking to the king?
Isaiah.
Because
This
it's
is a prophecy. He's basically taunting the king.
yeah, and it sounds like because just I was spending the time rereading this, and it sounds like he's telling him, look, for your pride you are about to fall, and you're gonna hit you're gonna hit rock bottom, um and you'll fall, and it sounds like he's taunting him, saying your fall is gonna be the equivalent of a fall from heaven.
Yes. No, that's definitely what's happening. It's a taunt. And like I said in the first one, when he mentions the cherub, they like this taunt. I mean, to be fair, priests do that nowadays where they talk about the fall. It's a favorite taunt, and that's definitely what's going on. It's a taunt. But again, this is where the name Lucifer Morningstar comes from. First of all, Lucifer is just the Latin interpretation of this word. So the real question is Morning Star or Lucifer? Because if it is a name, it's just Lucifer or Morning Star, not both. That's just redundant. But is it referring to the angel or the king? That's what's in question, and that's why I say the third angel
Um,
name is disputed.
it could be, yeah, because was this
Yeah.
before or after the Tower of Babel?
Uh, I think it's after.
Because if it was,
But I'm not 100% sure on that.
because see, if this is like immediately, like, is this the same king who would have been around during the building of the Tower of Babel, or during the time when the Tower of Babel was still around and it fell?
I think this is after.
Because if this was during the time of because I don't remember this king, so I don't know. Did he make the comparison that he was greater than heaven? Did he make the comparison that he was going to reach full heaven? Did he make the comparison that his kingdom was
Okay.
heavenly?
Yes, it is after the event of the Tower of Babel.
Because the way the way Isaiah is provoking the king, and you know yes, it can be interpreted that, he's comparing that his fall is going to be like that of falling from heaven to hell, especially the next part where he's talked about. But it's some of the parts he's talking about afterward. I don't know if this king did this, where he's basically saying things like, I will ascend to heaven, I will raise my throne above the stars of God, I will sit enthroned on the mount of assembly, on the utmost height of the sacred mountain, I will ascend above the tops of the cloud. Like, if this was all, before or during the building of the Babylon Tower, this would all make sense in that context because they were trying to build up to be with God. But I don't know about the Babylonian kings after the fall, if they ever strive to be that arrogant again, because my whole understanding was when the Tower of Babel fall, the Babylonian king kind of pretty much went on the decline, if not fell soon afterward.
Babylon did fall eventually, but no, the kings were still pretty horrible. Um,
Okay.
to be fair, the king in Isaiah 14, there's a bit of question, but the two that come up are either Sargon the Second, who briefly ruled Babylon, or the more famous Nebuchadnezzar the Second. That's who Isaiah 14 they believe is talking about. Because that's the problem with some of the Bibles, that they don't always name the kings. Like very famously, it's considered Ramses the Second is the pharaoh
The
from the
Egyptian
Exodus, but
accent, yeah.
that they've shown that no, it definitely was not Ramses the Second. The Bible doesn't name the pharaoh; it just calls him the pharaoh, which actually makes sense because they probably wouldn't be able to say his name being slaves. But they do believe they found which pharaoh is the pharaoh of the Exodus, but I don't remember his name, and we don't really need to get into that because that can be its own video, and there's
Yeah.
better videos on it anyway. But yeah, but this is definitely after the fall of the Tower of Babel.
Okay. Because yeah, just the way he's talking, I don't know if that king was trying to rebuild the tower. Because he's making it sound like the king was trying to ultimately almost rebuild the Tower of Babel, in how arrogant the king was, or trying to rise back to the level of God.
Yeah, that could be. Like again, it's definitely a comparison. My question is just the name, because this is why people call the devil Lucifer, or Satan Lucifer. But I challenge that this is actually his name. I'm not. I have to
It's
admit, like it's a little strange, the wording, and again, like it doesn't. Again, Michael and Gabriel both have names that are kind of celebrating God, where Morningstar doesn't. It's more self-serving, and Lightbringer and everything. I mean, Lightbringer, that sounds like something an arrogant king would name himself.
I mean, taking it, without thinking, using it as its actual definition of Lightbringer and not the name, reading that line out, "Oh Lightbringer, Morning Star," that
Yeah.
sound like, just another way of saying the sun, bringer of light.
Yeah, which many kings did compare themselves to.
Mm,
So, like the Egyptian kings did that quite
yes.
often. So, that's why, I mean, that's why I think it sounds more like that could have been the name for the king more than him talking to the angel. More like he's saying, "Hey, whatever stupid title of king, you remember the angel also fell." That sounds like that sounds more reasonable to me,
Hmm.
in my opinion.
Yeah, it's all. This is Bible to a T. A bunch of things left up for interpretation.
Yeah, pretty much. And I guess also is that in reality, it's not really that important. Like, see, that's the problem. Is the Bible focus on what's actually important, and the actual name of either way. Like, let's say this is the name of the devil. Well, he's Satan. He's the adversary of God. You don't really need to know his name. And to be fair, if this is the name of Babylonian king, who cares?
Don't they
You know
name
the
him New Testament?
who Satan,
Satan,
or the
devil, Lucifer.
no Satan and devil. Devil is just the Greek word for Satan. basically. Devil comes from the Greek diablos, which is just their word for adversary or, um,
Basically, I'm trying to
accuser.
remember when Jesus was in the desert fasting. I'm trying to
Yeah, he
remember.
calls him Satan.
Okay,
Yeah, he never calls him Lucifer.
okay. Because
This
I
is the
remember
only
he did refer
time.
to him as like devil or something.
Yeah, he refers to him as Satan, or in the Greek translation, devil. Again, it's that's just translation. They're saying the same word. He's not given a name. Just adversary. Not worthy of a name, apparently.
Hmm.
Which could see that. Because, again, also, as mentioned, Lucifer is just Latin for morning star. So it's definitely not Lucifer morning star. It's just morning star. So I'm saying the name's a maybe. But, now again, I don't really want to dive too far into the devil because honestly, there's already so much material. I mean, even Jesus mentions heaven. I mean, mentions hell more than heaven in the New Testament. However, there are a few things I think would be interesting to mention. First, as we already mentioned, Michael contends against Satan. So here's a question. Did Michael replace Satan? Like in his position? And if so, does that make Michael a cherub?
We know Michael is the command. What was it? A prince.
Is the prince of princes? That's a high rank, clearly. So, I mean, and cherubs, from what we can tell, is a high ranking angel. Guardians. So, I mean, is it unfeasible that we never see Michael in like anything other than human form? Maybe he's a cherub,
Well, this goes back to the ranks of angels at this point.
right? And again, Michael just gets the term archangel, so not clear, but like he's the one who contends with Satan. So, I mean, is it unreasonable to think that perhaps Michael replaced him?
No. Now we gotta wonder if because now I'm starting to wonder if all the mentions of the devil is not separate beings at this point.
It's always adversary. To be fair, it doesn't say one way or the other. Because that's also the problem is that the first time the word Satan is used is actually in Numbers 22:22, but it's not referring to um, the adversary of God. It's just mentioning an adversary. So that's the problem is that they still use the word adversary for its meaning of adversary, even when they're not referring to God's adversary, the quote unquote Satan. Like again, that's not directly denoted as a person until Job 1:6.
Oh yeah, with him being swallowed by the Leviathan, technically.
Yeah. Wait,
Because
what?
Job, right? The oh, am I thinking?
No, that was
Sorry,
Jonah.
sorry,
Jonah was
Jonah.
swallowed by the
Job was the
whale.
one who was tested. Sorry.
Job was the one who was tested. Yeah,
Well, again,
he did see the Leviathan though, as God showed him, but he wasn't swallowed by one.
Job, on the other hand, this was again when they named him as devil when he came up and spoke with God. Okay. Because they didn't give him a name there.
Yeah, but yeah, so that's where it's like the devil he just gets called. He doesn't get a name. He gets a purpose of adversary or a denotion of what he is, which I guess being named for what you are is more appropriate than something else. I mean, he's the adversary, I guess. The genuine article, in a way. Eh. Well, naturally, the Bible does not offer any clues to, Michael's true appearance or, if there's multiple ones. But either way, I think it's an interesting notion to consider. Now, the other reason I did not want to just skip over the cherub Satan is because Satan and his betrayal highlights a point made earlier that angels must possess some form of free will. Or, as some people do like to theorize, that Satan was made by God to be an adversary. You can go ahead and switch to the final slide. So, this is where we get into heavy philosophy now. Did God create his own adversary? Like, God is supposed to be all knowing, everything else. Did he always know from the minute he created Satan that he was going to betray him? Or was that a surprise? Or perhaps it was always meant to be? Or, as some people think, actually, it was mentioned in Bedazzled, did a good job explaining this. Not Bedazzled with Brendan Fraser. That was actually a remake of an original movie where the devil was played by a man, where he was actually saying that he was an integral part of God's plan, that he supplied the evil. Because, as he described it, a lot of people have this question with God is like, why does God let bad things happen? Why does God let people be evil and everything else? And it's this, is that that's free will. You can't be said to have free will if you can't make a choice. And if you can't choose to be evil, then by definition, you can't choose to be good. You have to be able to choose to be evil in order to be able to choose to be good. So if there is no evil to choose from, then there is no good to choose from. You can't be considered good if you could never choose in the first place.
Yes.
That makes sense?
No, it's like the whole, you know, people argue, oh, well, what? Yeah, I always hear the argument, why do bad things happen? Well, no, I always hear the argument from atheists of, if God is all good or all powerful, why does bad thing happen, or why does evil exist unless He's evil? I'm like, well, no, I mean, in my mind, um, it's always been like, well, it's explained in Genesis. We had the choice. Humanity had a choice. We could have stayed as essentially mindless automaton to the Lord, obeying His every word, um, or we could have taken with the option of free will and made our choices for ourselves.
Yeah.
And
And also, like, that's the thing is that choice denotes actual goodness. Like, going back to this thing, we're over here in the States. There's a big culture war now, especially in terms of masculinity and what it means to be a man. Now, I want to bring this up because this actually does reference this. Is that um, a lot of men, unfortunately, are listening to very bitter feminists on how to be a man, and that's a huge mistake. Because a lot of them say that a good man is someone who's harmless, who can't hurt anyone. That is absolutely 100% wrong.
that's against evolution.
Because, well, that's not against evolution. That's against basic common sense. Because think about it. If you're harmless and you don't harm anyone, it's not because you can't. It's because you physically can't harm anyone. You're incapable of it, and that's not good. For someone to be good, you should be capable of harming. You should be capable of hurting people, but choosing not to. Like, actually, good example of this. As you guys know, well, as you may or may not know, there are some people who are allergic to alcohol. It's very rare, but it does happen. Now, some people consider not drinking a virtue, right?
Yes.
Well, if someone who's allergic to alcohol says, I'm virtuous because I don't drink, well, that's stupid. He doesn't have the choice. That's not virtuous. He
Yeah.
literally can't. And see, that's the thing is you have to have that choice. And I'm not saying that men should go around like threatening people or hurting people or anything else, but they should be capable of it. You should be capable of hurting someone, of doing that and then choosing not to. Like the three of us, we are all very capable of hurting people. In fact, on some occasions, we have hurt people by accident or not so by accident. But we are all capable of that. Wouldn't you agree?
Yes.
Yeah.
what makes us decent, what makes us good, is that we're capable of that, but that we don't do it. We choose not to. We choose not to beat every poor schmuck we can. We choose not to hurt others. We choose instead to be good and to not cause harm, even though we are capable of it. And that's what makes us better. If we can't do that, then we can't be said to be good. We're just harmless. And harmless is not good. Harmless is weak. If you can't cause harm, you're not a good man, you're just a weak one. And weak men are very dangerous because it's weak men. These are the men who go shoot up schools. Strong men don't shoot up schools full of kids. It's weak men who do that. And that's why I think it's important to understand the difference of why you have to be able to have the choice, because you can't be truly good if you can't be truly evil. If that makes sense.
I think of it in terms of a video game of if I'm the best, you know what? The best thing I can think of, there's a game called Black and White. A game franchise called Black and White where you play as a god. And you get to, you can choose, you can be you are god to a chosen people. In the second game, the chosen people are the Greeks. Go figure. Yeah, it's mainly because they like the architecture and they want that to be the thing you do.
I mean, I can understand that. Greek architecture is gorgeous most of the time.
And you get the choice of what type of god you want to be. Do you want to be a good god, a middle of the lane god, or a bad god? And good god goes build up a glorious city, help your people, give away miracles left and right type deal. Middle of the lane, do a little bad, do a little good. Bad god, you're making them build war camps, invade, slaughter in your name, sacrifice the firstborn, throw people in jail for no reason, that type of stuff.
So Zeus.
Yes. Well, no, less rapey.
less rapey.
But one thing I did like is I played that game as a child, and that gave me a whole good interpretation of what it would be like to be God, because you have all the power. The NPCs, the little people, their lives are so trivial. They'll die in minutes compared to an in-game an hour in our time in real life was like probably years in their times. They'd be like, I remember looking at some of their ages, they would be like Methuselah's age. I would see some people 100 something years old before they croak.
Damn.
Well, sometime because I was a good god most of the time, so they lived long lives. But it always did bring me to, it made me ponder a lot of philosophical questions, such as, good or evil. Am I being a good god? Because at the start of the game, bad things are happening to them because I was neglectful of them. I left them alone. And then during the course of the game, I'm trying to help them, but bad things are still happening to them. They're still being attacked by other countries. They are still, things all befalling them. I am doing what I can to make good things happen to them, but bad things are still happening, regardless. Granted, I'm not all powerful in the game, but it always did raise questions to me. I'm like, well, some of the thing that always brought up to me was one particular mission. A guy he's cursing my name. You look at what you did. His daughter got pregnant. You made her pregnant.
Are you sure you're not Zeus?
I don't know. That was coming. I knew that was coming, goddamn. No, I did not do it this time.
I had to.
This time, it is very clear the daughter, got pregnant with like a boyfriend or something and lied about it to her father to avoid blame and shifted it on you. They made that very clear during the course of the mission. Okay. Well, that was the whole thing. That was the whole thing that dawned on me of free will. It's like, I didn't make the daughter pregnant. The daughter had the choice to get pregnant. I did build a house for them, and you could make the argument because I built the house for them, and I made their lives nice enough that the daughter could go out and have free time to get into a relationship. That's why they got pregnant. But at the end of the day, who made the choice to get pregnant?
Yeah.
It's a good
And
game. One of these days I should play it with you guys.
yeah, no, actually, that brought up a good point with the Lucifer TV show and the Lucifer comic. The comic and the TV show changed a lot of things for comedic reasons, but one line they kept, which I thought was really good, was Lucifer when in the show I think he's talking to the therapist. In the comic, I think he was just talking to himself or talking to a demon. But he was saying that his name has been vilified for all time. These people blaming me for all their sins, as if I sit on their shoulders, whispering to them, tempting them, forcing them to do things. I've never forced anyone to do anything, and yet they vilify me for their own depravity. It's like, that's a surprisingly good line. And it shows that, again, one of our things with free will is that we don't like taking accountability. We'd rather blame something or someone else.
Oh, of
And
course.
that's a good description. You just said it right there. Why take accountability when you can just blame something else? And that's another big part. And that actually is a big part of, Satan's entire fall is because what we see is that the Bible says he was the highest of the guardian cherub. He was the top. But what did he want? He wanted to be like God. He was envious of what he could not be. And some people make an argument. It's like, what's so bad about that? He just wanted more. It's like, okay, so this people say it's not such a bad thing to want more. I actually kind of disagree with that because wanting more is essentially greed. And first of all, the seven deadly sins, that's not biblical canon. That was made up by the Catholics. That's not in the
Yes.
Bible. But the reason they are there is that is a point when you simply are always trying to get more, live your entire life for nothing but greed, you will never be satisfied. You're always clamoring for more and more stuff. And everyone you look at has something that you don't. What you give up is
Envy.
that you can never enjoy what you have. You spend your entire life just grabbing more. So instead, you shouldn't be wanting more, but what you should really want is a desire to be better or to be the best version of yourself, the best version that you can be. Because I think this is a problem in modern day, especially, is
Yes.
that a lot of people are envious of what other people have. They like, people who are, I don't know, maybe construction workers look at millionaires and say, they've got so much more than me. I should have what they have. And it's like, well, no, not necessarily. Like, it's all right, but you should want to be the best version of yourself. You shouldn't just want that because someone else has it. You should want something because it's going to make you better or to make it so that you can do better or be better, not simply because you want it. That's not a good way to live. That's not a good way to have. And that's kind of what Lucifer's fall is about. And that's why it's such a big warning is that he wanted just something because he wanted it. He didn't care about being the best he could be. He wanted to be so much more than that. And it kind of describes that. And it even shows like one of the big why do people go over to the devil? Because the devil will give you something that frankly you haven't earned or something that you can't handle. Like, let's be honest, if everybody had a wishing machine, a lot of people would wish themselves to be millionaires. But what would happen if they actually did that? They would probably blow through all the money they had, spending a bunch of crap. Whatever company or thing they were in charge with would probably go under. They'd probably cause a lot of problems. Why? Because they haven't earned it. And
It's whenever
some
people win the
aren't really
lottery.
meant. Yeah, same thing as that.
Well, I
It's
think.
just
No, go ahead.
no. Go ahead. No, you're good. Go ahead.
I was gonna say I think moderations. Most
Yeah,
people do not, especially this day and age, people do not practice moderation, and I think there is an. And I was gonna get into this if we did a degenerate discussion again. Um, I think with a lot of things, it's just a matter of too much. Like, let's say you already got a million, you're a millionaire. One thing I notice about a lot of millionaires, they don't stop with the because let's face it, $1 million, you could probably if you practice good moderation and you live a modest lifestyle, $1 million is enough to live the rest of your life off of, pretty much.
I agree. No, 100%.
Because I don't think a lot of people truly fathom how much $1 million is, or 2 million, or 3 million. And some of these people who are at the top, they got billions,
Yeah.
and or just a billion. That's Most people can't even fathom how much money $1 billion truly is. They know the zeros, but they what, 9 zeros if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, but they don't know the actual vastness. And again, that's the point. It's like we overindulge on things we don't need.
And that's kind of what get me is I find that it's kind of interesting that when people get to a point where they made so much money, they shouldn't need any more in terms of want. They still keep trying to make more money.
Yeah.
And that's always dumbfounded me. I'm like, you have more money. Like, if I get, let's say I get $2 million or 3 million, enough to live off of, $1 million to live off of. I mean, I probably still would do my day job.
Yeah. So, but that's the thing. Is like they're getting more money, but they're just getting it for the sake of getting more money. It's not with some higher purpose anymore.
Yes.
And that's the thing, like getting more money to do something. Like Howard Hughes, he got a lot more money, but he was constantly trying to do something. He was trying to improve aviation, go farther with what planes were capable of. I mean, that's something. I mean, that was innovative, though. Unfortunately, he was also OCD and a little nuts. But
Yes.
you know, still, that's my point, is that he was striving for something. When you strive only to make money just so you can buy a bunch of crap, you know, you lose yourself. And most of all, you lose a lot of your morality, because we've seen that people who just want to get rich, to get all the stuff, they don't care about bending rules anymore. I mean, Andrew Tate's a good example. He wanted lots of money, and like we all know what kind of lifestyle he turned to.
I'm just thinking the Ponzi's. I thought you were gonna be talking about the pyramid scheme of how he keep making money.
Yeah, I was gonna try to avoid that actually. But you understand my point, is that you give up a lot of, is that people will go so far just to be rich and have all this stuff just because they want more, that they'll often give up their morality for it. And me personally, like, I wouldn't want to have that money knowing that I only got it by basically breaking rules and, essentially cheating. Like for me, it'd almost be like in sports where you only win the medal because you cheated. Like I wouldn't want that medal. Like okay, this is gonna piss people off, but you know what? This is about the devil, and angels, so why not? It's like with the trans people, the guys going into girls' sports. As someone who does like to compete every now and again, I would be offended, like being the only male and winning against a bunch of girls who were not physically as strong as I am, or could not actually be a match for me. Like I would find that offensive personally. You
For
want to
me,
avoid that? Huh?
yeah. Well, you know what? I'll save it for a degenerate discussion.
Oh, that bad, huh?
Yeah, you know what? Degenerate discussion would be a bad place
Got it. Okay.
for
But
myself.
but again, that's the whole thing. And it also kind of shows, what? Hierarchies kind of exist for a reason. Because again, I know we don't like to say this, but not everyone is meant to be a millionaire. Not everybody's meant to be a boss. Not everybody's meant to be in charge. Just some people, or their personalities just don't fit with it. Like I think the three of us, we'd all make lousy bosses. I mean,
Technically, I was a boss without even knowing.
yeah. Did you enjoy it at all?
Oh yeah, sure. All the work and the responsibility, none of the pay or title.
Yeah, that's about where I'm at with several things in my workplace too. So
Exactly. And like that's the thing though, we don't have any real desire to be bosses. Like I know I personally don't want to own my own company. And I don't know, is that something that you guys ever wanted, or I'm asking.
If it was, I I have thought of it. If it was, but see, I never wanted to get big. For example, I have thought, yeah, what if I own like a little tea shop or something like that, or a little pool hall, or
Okay.
on crazier days, what if we all went together as detectives? I have actually thought of that before.
Okay, I'm not gonna lie, I've considered that too.
Because I'm like, I
Yeah.
know a good
I
office that would have the perfect Noel atmosphere to it. But
Oh,
then
it's
we
the
would
one-
never get any cases.
Out of curiosity, is it the one in?
Possibly.
Because I'm not gonna lie, I've considered it too. Like, I've generally thought of it, but like, I'm just like, no, don't do it. Like, ugh. It
Uh,
would be interesting.
I've seen a lot, so
Yeah, but yeah, and it also, but like I said, like we don't like to admit, but you know, not everybody's cut out to be a boss. Not everybody's cut out to lead. That's how it is. You don't like it? Well, tough. That's life. Life's not always fair. It's like, you know, again, something we don't like to talk about. We are not all we're not all equal. I'm sorry. There are people who are born stronger than others. There are people who are born faster than others, smarter than others. I mean, hell, you want unfairness. You know, I don't look like Pierce Brosnan, so there's unfairness right there.
I don't know what you're talking about. I still look better looking than Denzel Washington. That's how I know how. I mean, you all talking about yourself. I know I'm gorgeous.
Well, you see, that's what I'm talking about. It's unfairness. Like Zed and I, unfortunately, did not get your striking good looks.
I know. No one can be this good looking. I know.
And also, I've also always admired your. You know, you're very humble.
Oh, I'm not the most humble. I'm the second most humble. The most humble will have to go to the streamer Asmongold. He's the most humble. I'm the second most humble.
Wait, who the hell is Asmongold?
They can look him up on Twitch.
Oh God,
He make the jokes all the time. He's the most humble. And
got
in
it.
some ways he's kind of right.
You know, next time it's your birthday, I'm getting you a hat that says "Look how humble I am."
I
No,
will have
I'm
to
not doing that.
I
You
would have
so
to put it
wear
in the
that.
pile.
Okay, I think you're joking, but I'm not sure. Do you actually have piles of hats that denote how humble you are?
Well, not hats, but t-shirts.
Oh, for heaven's sake. Ugh. Where was I even going with this? My point is that Satan wanted to be more because he was envious, and that's a lesson for all of us, which is why pride is such
Pride
a
before
big
the
sin.
fall.
Oh yeah, pride before the fall, and that's the lesson they constantly teach, and that's his lesson. And you know, as it turns out, he really shouldn't be in charge. You know what? He's not good for it. Because again, sometimes you know hierarchies tend to just kind of happen, and honestly, hierarchies aren't necessarily a bad thing. Like things get done when someone's in charge. Because we don't like to admit it, but nothing gets done in a pure democracy. When everybody talks, everybody has an opinion, shit does not get done. It's just factually true.
I hear what you're saying, Archimage. We need more dictators.
Yeah, that's not counting the good or evil of it, but dictators get shit done.
Yes.
Not good
As
things.
the most humble
get shit
person,
done.
if people want to let me a dictator of the U.S., I'm willing to take on that burden.
Question.
Yes.
Will you make it a law that every like 9 or 10 will have to wear a miniskirt?
Well, I mean that was gonna be the only people we allowed to, immigrate into the U.S. at that point was 9s and 10s.
Okay, I'm in. You got my vote. Zed, what about you?
Like my first policy.
I'm sorry. I'm not digging my grave today. Y'all can have fun with that. I am not digging my grave right now.
We could allow 7s as well.
Just to be fair, show we don't discriminate.
Well, I mean, we can't be. We don't want to be too picky.
Exactly.
But yeah, six and below. No, sorry, we got to deport you.
I can't believe I willingly associate myself with you two.
I was gonna say I can literally hear shaking his head. I can hear Zed shaking his head at
I
this.
can't wait to make a YouTube short of this.
Oh, good for you.
Zed is shaking his head, going, "Oh God, I agreed to be recorded with these people."
I agree to be friends with you people. That's where I'm at right now.
And see, you took accountability for it. That's the good thing.
That's
Wait,
gonna,
why am I still here? I could just leave.
that's gonna have to be a degenerate discussion. What would? Oh, jeez, he left. Okay, what would?
He actually left.
That's gonna have to be a degenerate discussion. What do Dictator Shadow Allfox look like?
Oh God.
That's gotta be a degenerate discussion right there.
I know what that looks like. I want no part of it.
Okay, Zed, I
Thank you
admit
very much.
This one
Good.
is my
No.
fault. Okay, I admit this one's my fault.
We
It
got
is completely your fault.
It is completely my fault. I acknowledge that.
because
I'm taking accountability.
I have contemplating dictatorship. I have contemplated
Okay,
changes
yeah, this is
that
entirely,
will need to be made.
Okay, this is entirely my fault. Okay, well, on that high note, that was the section about.
Oh yeah, that's what this is.
Yeah, it is actually. Actually, you know what? It's kind of fitting that a discussion about the devil ends in a talk about dictatorships.
I'm just saying, Shadow Allfox 2028.
Oh God.
I'll be honest. I will run on the platform. I'm dictator. That's why you should vote for me. I'm honest. I'm not going to sneakily become a dictator. I'm gonna go from the forefront, so you know what you get.
The sad thing is, he'll probably get some votes.
I'm being honest. I'll be this. I'm the most honest politician currently running.
I'm not gonna lie. That's about the. That's only like a small bit better than if I were to ever run for president, because my slogan would be this. All right, vote for me. A vote for me is a vote for me. Everybody's comment would be, well, he's not wrong. I mean, that's true. That'll be my entire slogan. Zed, you can be our campaign manager.
That entirely depends on how much you're willing to pay.
If we win, we'll give you Greenland. You know, once we buy it.
I was just thinking, why are you giving him the worst country? You rather than saying you're gonna give him Iceland, the actual green country, you're giving him the frozen country that is called Greenland.
Greenland has a lot of resources.
It does.
I don't need any of them.
It's not. My point is, Greenland was called that to make people go there, but it's actually more of an Iceland type situation where Iceland is the Greenland technically.
Yeah, but no one's trying to buy Iceland.
Well, no, because now we're not going into agriculture as much. But that was the whole point. Was you call Greenland that because you wanted people to go there, not knowing that it was not anything near green.
Oh yeah, no, I know, but I was just no, that was just because there's this. Actually, is that controversy about the U.S. buying Greenland still going on, or has everybody just forgotten about that? Like, I forgot all about it. I'm not gonna lie.
It is not going on. Well, no, it's still going on. At this point, it's more of the more upset because he who must not be named has been throwing around military force if necessary to seize Greenland.
Yeah, makes sense.
I don't put a lot of stock in it, but yeah,
I wouldn't. Like, half thing is just a show of strength, and they back down all the time.
I just don't put a lot of stock in it because there is no financial value for us to take. Just like how there's no financial value for us to have annex Canada.
Yeah. To be fair, I think Canada was strictly a joke, and also
No, Canada was. I
don't want Canada.
No, I don't want Canada either.
Like, I'm sorry, Canadians, like, they may be nice, but your country's screwed up.
we got California to deal with. I don't want Canada to
Exactly.
deal
We
with.
don't need Canada. Like Canada's like California on steroids. Only, with funny accents. That'll probably get us canceled. Oh well. With that, that's all I have on Satan. I just kind of wanted to mention. I thought that the fact that the Bible does actually say that Satan is probably a cherub was interesting. I didn't just want to gloss over it because I thought that was kind of interesting, and not a lot of people know that the Bible says that. Like, did either of you two know that?
I I believe I knew that he wasn't an archangel.
That's fair. Zed,
No, I didn't.
find it interesting, being the
Yeah,
non-religious person.
yeah, a fair bit. Because again, I only knew like fairly basic surface level.
Yep. Okay, and okay, so now you guys have got enough information. If you want more information on biblical Satan or the devil, there's plenty of better videos that actually will dive much more into it. Like even with our overbloated one here, where we go off on tangents, we're still shorter than most lectures on Satan.
I'm
Which,
thinking you would have to look in the Book of Enoch or something for more explanation on Satan or something.
oh God, no! There's so many sources on Satan. Like, do you know how many different books? I mean, I think
Well,
there's
I
actually
was
a
thinking like actual biblical, closer to time
actual
period.
biblical.
Yeah, that's why I said the Book of Enoch, because I know it's technically like what 1,000 years old, something after the Bible, but
Well, yeah, it's non-canon
it's
because they can't
non-canon, but
verify.
it
Uh,
is closer in time period to it, if I
I don't
remember
actually
correctly.
know if the Book of Enoch talks that much more about Satan. It mentions a lot of the angels
Yeah,
and the Watchers. I'm not sure if it's. I'll have to look into that. We'll cover it later on. But because like I said, this is podcast. This is about angels, so I didn't want to go too much into Satan. Like this is mostly so we can make sure the flow of this works well, especially when we go talking about for the next episode when we touch back on angels. We're probably gonna take a pause for a bit, but when we return to angels, we're going to be talking about specifically the throne of God and how it leads up to the angel hierarchy, which is going to be very interesting. And you'll understand why I had to put these together and why I need to kind of put this space in because it's going to make more sense. Because especially if we had to touch on these, the video either would have been way too long or it would have just kind of gone all over the place. So, do you guys have anything else you wanted to add about Satan the cherub?
just like the Bible, I don't have that much to say about Satan.
That's fair. Zed?
No, I got nothing else.
All right. Well, then join us next time, and I hope you all enjoyed it.
Oh, this is gonna be fun seeing if this recording gets saved.
Oh, God.
Please don't.
Puffin
Please
way
don't.
too, Puffin